So it's easy for them to read and it becomes more attractive for them. Uh, think about your eyes. How big are the eyes when a child is young? If you look at this, and you've done this in school, or I mean in your syllabus as well, if you're looking at the child's eyes size compared to the rest of the face, small children have bigger I mean their eyes seem bigger, right? And as they grow, as we grow up, our eyes sort of shrink in to our skull for most of us. I'm asking, I'm not commenting, I'm genuinely asking. Is it because we read more than children? One part of it is yes. But also, if you really look at it, a child's eyes, and if you recognize a child's eyes, it will be large. It is always, the child is not able to squint at small, tiny objects. The child sees large, shiny objects. The child is not able to squint and narrow the vision as much. So it's a muscle movement, you know, when you are trying to squint and read and you're trying to contract. As you grow old, because you're starting to focus on the narrower objects, you slowly start losing focus of the larger object, which is why we end up having myopia and all of these, lifestyle diseases. And then as you grow older and you get these cataract and all of it, again, you need a big print to read because your eyes never seem to fixate on small things and your eyes seem, and this is true of children as well. So this is a physical property. You will read, if you read, and computers keep this in mind. You know, people are paying millions of dollars to research this. And if you notice earlier, our books and all would have a font size. I mean, at least in my lifetime, I know that the default font was Times News Roman 12. Then it became Arial 11. Now it is Calibri 11. Calibri 11 is even smaller than Arial 11. And slowly over a period of time, we are expecting that things will become that we will read 10 and 9 and 11 will become too much for us. So, yes, and Marisa, you're right. It looks much bigger. Their eyes look bigger in proportion to their face. You can actually, when newborn babies are born, it's almost one third of their face. Not, I'm exaggerating, but almost one third of their face seems to be just eyes. Their nose, their mouth, their chin, everything seems to be just crunched up into this other one third of the face. And of course, the head is everything else, right? It's a huge head. And these are cognitive challenges that come up. These are reasons why we make the font very big for a child. If you try to read a 14 font print today for like 5 pages, I promise you will get a headache. You'll get a headache only because you're so used to this tiny font size on your phone or your laptop and that you're not able to read that large font size. You'll get a headache because your eyes have to sort of enlarge themselves. You have to make your eyes large. And those are elements of what reading comprises of. Why am I doing all of this in writing? Because one of the elements of what you have in your syllabus is the mechanics of writing. And font selection, font type are all mechanics of writing. And I'm just touching the surface, but I think you get a sense of what the mechanics of writing are, right? That choosing a font size, choosing where to project it. So you will never, when you print out a PPT as a PPT and you're trying to read it, you hate it. But on the PPT, we use a default font of 18. On the Word doc, we use a default size of 11. Interesting, isn't it? How it is different, though we are still both reading both on the computer. but the way that it looks on that format makes a lot of difference. These are mechanics of writing. Mechanics of writing has to do with font. Mechanics of writing has to do with understanding cultural shifts of being able to read left to right or right to left. Mechanics of writing has to deal with aspects of where does your eye, how is your eye being trained to move? When you move it, are you moving it, you move right to left and then you make a square, or do you move and you have different lines that each line is moved left to right, you finish it, come to the next line and read it left to right? How is it that you're reading? What are the cultural parameters of it? All of these are parts of mechanics of writing. What is the font size, etc. And these are cultural things that will change over a period of time. As I said, in within the last, you know this, you would have had experiences with Arial being a default or Times being a default font, and then now moving to Calibri as the default font for Word documents. You have seen the shift happening, and so you know how it is. And these are elements of the mechanics of writing. I'm going to stop with that element there. One of the other elements of mechanics of writing that I was doing was when I was doing tenses with you. You remember? I was doing those tenses and all of it. That is one other aspect of mechanics of writing, which is the editorial part. How does a tense affect the writing skill? And the third element of mechanics of writing is that writing is not just writing, it is also listening. It is the word, the speech, and people spend time on it. If you ever watch documentaries on Wordsworth, on George Orwell, on Keats, whether they are fiction writers or whether they are poets or anything, you will find that those people spent ages trying to create and craft one paragraph or one stanza. They spent like 2-3 weeks sometimes with it. So writing is a iterative, reiterative process. It constantly makes you go back and revise yourself. So it is revisionist. Writing is also something that you will come back to and say, oh my God, what did I write? And then change it. So all of these are parts of the writing process in a way that perhaps reading is not as frustrating. Writing frustrates. Do you agree? Or do you find writing is easier? Is there anyone who finds writing is easier? Both are equally frustrating. Okay. Okay. So now
Ma'am,
for the creative, huh?
for me,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think writing is easier because expressing rather than writing is easier for me, I think. I can
Yeah.
express more in.
Some of us do find writing to be easier if we are expressing what we think. And most of us don't find it easier because we're also thinking of, you know, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, लोग कैसे समझेंगे kind of
Yes,
thing. So it really depends on how we are projecting. If you're writing for ourselves in our diary, sometimes that may be easier. But if you're writing for an assignment, suddenly you are more conscious of what does the teacher want? It's not even about what I have understood. It is about what does the teacher want? And that is so
yes,
difficult. And yeah, Unnati, you're right. It is so difficult to put down in words your thoughts and compare to things. So each one of us are not going to have the same problem. Some of us actually have problems reading. I, for instance, am a very good reader. I will say that. Uh, and with all due respect, I am a good reader, but I don't like horror stories. And I find it very tough to read them. And I struggle to understand why this guy is writing this. Though I try reading on and off, but it's not my favorite genre. And it's difficult to then try and empathize. And so I'm constantly questioning. I'm not a good reader of horror, and But on the other hand, detective fiction, science fiction, all of these I can read much better. So these are kinds of ways that you have. If you're a good writer and you're reading badly written text, you also end up doing editorializing, saying, oh, you should not have used this, you should have written it this way. So yes, mood dependent, absolutely. Sometimes we can't read. There are times when we want to read, and then we are like, no, I think we'll watch the television, which is much more brain deadening rather than read. So, or listen to music, or do anything but read, or do anything but write. So, these are not easy tasks. This paper is not dealing with an easy task in that sense of reflection. But since we are dealing with creative writing, and I am going to ask you to think about it, I would like you to think of in 5 lines or so, okay, just 5 lines, the autobiography of a cabbage. And I'm going to ask you why we do this in school. This autobiography of a pen, autobiography of a raincoat, pencil, and all of it. But you have 5 minutes. No, no, wait. Okay, Unnati is typing already. I'll give you. It is 3:14 on my phone right now. I will give you till 3:20 maximum. Okay, so you have 5 to 6 minutes. Think of 5 lines. I don't want a long one. 5 lines where you're thinking of an autobiography of a cabbage. And you can begin now. It's 3:15, so 5 minutes. I think that's fair. I'll also type. Okay, 3:20, and we are kind of done. Okay, I'm going to read out a few, and some are brilliant. Okay, so I am a cabbage. I go by cabbage. I'm purple, not green. I serve with one purpose. I just care about making the salad look pretty. Interesting. Uh, I was born in a farm. I grew up around a lot of other cabbages. I was definitely the most good looking one. And so they picked me, they washed the dirt off me, packaged me amongst other good looking cabbages, sent me to the market. And there got picked up by a beautiful woman. She made kimchi, and I lie in her fridge, pickled, ready to be eaten up. Okay. Mm. In the fridge, half cut dry cabbage. How difficult was it for you guys to do this?
Very.
Not very? Yeah, you can speak.
So I have written one. I am a
Yeah,
cabbage.
I'm still reading. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, read out yours.
Yeah, I am a cabbage, also round, green in color. So I am found. You eat me as vegetable or as salad, found in the market wherever you go and now.
Where is this? I can't find it. Have I missed it?
I have written on my tab.
Ah, okay. But you haven't pasted it. Okay.
No,
But it's
no.
nice. So, yes. So, uh, some like me, some don't. So see, in this case of creative writing, and that's one of the aspects of creative writing, all right, you can write whatever you want, and we have so many different stories. We have a story of a purple, we had stories of, someone writing it and saying, I'm eaten raw, I am eaten in different ways. So uses, and there are other things of, I have a comfortable bed of mud to grow, and talking about the growth on farm. Some of them are talking of pickles, some of them are talking of salads and looking pretty. I think I and RM is Rachel, I think, had similar ideas of a salad and and being discarded just to make look pretty, but in a different way. And the others are talking about Carol and cabbage and naming it, and Carmen the carrot and Casper. This is a fun thing, Ashna. It almost can be a good story. And so many others, have written in different ways. And we have to think of the viewpoint from a cabbage, and since it's an autobiography, absolutely. Why do we teach this in fifth standard? Why do we do autobiography is something that is brought about in most schools by the age of fourth or fifth standard. Why do we do this? Yes, to make them think and see in different perspectives. It took them 3 years almost to realize how they are a different species by themselves. The child in the first 1.5 years of age is always referring to himself or herself in the third person. It takes them a long time to look at the mirror and realize that person in the mirror is me. Then they become more conscious of themselves, and they're always focused on their own feelings, thoughts, opinions. And then over a period of time, you're also asking them, learn to put yourself in others' shoes. Imagine the role of an cabbage or a pen or an umbrella, and give it feelings and emotions and personification. And what are we teaching them through that? We're also teaching them. Can you tell me what values we are teaching them through this? Absolutely. Empathy. One of the values is empathy. You move the child out of the superego to try and think about it. Absolutely. And in the process, you're also enabling them to learn language and expression. You're enabling them to nurture imagination, and you're enabling them to be abstract thinking, to develop their abstract thinking skills, to respect things around us, to show sympathy and tolerance, and literally to put yourself in another's shoes, because you're making this exercise happen. And these are the elements of creative writing that we are able to take and nurture and push forward. And that is the sensitivity aspect. We're teaching them to be sensitive, to be tolerant, to think beyond the self, and to think outside the self in that way. So these are kinds of exercises that a language classroom can do for us. But it can be even the art classroom. It can be the music classroom, any class that enables us to think beyond ourselves. The art classroom also enables us to do that by trying to say, now draw this from the perspective of, if the shadow is coming from the right side or the left side. So even if we are not able to imagine we are not able to see it, we have to imagine it. And by imagining it, we try and make it feel warm. And the teacher will tell us, this is a playground. Now draw a person who is, who cannot play and is seeing the playground from his eyes. How does it look? So all these kinds of perspectives were taught to us in the arts class, and this is where the writing also can come in. Creative writing, to some extent, while it may not be the best creative writing you do, is generally considered to be not very difficult also to try. Maybe not excel, but to try. It is one of the easier ones. What is the second easiest one? Is let me ask this question to you. 1 second. I'm just going to ask you a question. What is easier? Okay. And the question is, this is a poll that I'm creating right now, creative writing. Non-fiction. Which is easier to write, creative, non-fiction, or academic?
Aditi, click on your choice.
Does anyone find non-fiction to be easier? Non-fiction is anything, like your WhatsApp messages, what you're doing right now, your emails, all of that comes under non-fiction. Of course, we always tell, when we are telling lies, that is very creative, mostly otherwise. Okay. Is anyone really attempting the poll at all? I think only I have voted. One out of 33 is what I'm reading. Yeah, okay. Done. Okay, all right. I'll just check.
Fiction is easier.
You think non-fiction is easier? Okay. All right. And it will end in the next 5 minutes, so we'll see the poll and the results. Yeah. Done is fine. That's okay. I just asked if someone else has taken it. We'll get the answer in the next 2 minutes. But the point is, you will find, and all of you will agree, that academic writing is the toughest. Why? What are the features of academic writing that make it so tough?
I think there are different terminologies which you need to know when you are writing it out.
Okay. The jargon, okay. But jargon is like another word, no? You can always find and pick it up and write it. It has to be absolutely right. There can't be any wrong information put in. It needs to have structured text, informative pieces.
Whatever you're writing, it should be to the point and not elaborative thing.
And then there is always that one teacher who will say, elaborate a bit more, no?
Yeah.
It's so difficult to find. How do you say to the point and yet not be too elaborate and yet explain? Okay. Needs formal language. Needs to be structured in a way where there are no misinterpretations. We have to learn the different concepts and write it correctly. Needs to have structure. Okay. All right. One of the things that I have done in this class, and very consciously done in this class, is not given you too many of academic readings. It's not that you don't have any references. You have 2, 3, which I have uploaded, but I have not really focused your attention there on them. I have made it, I have at least tried. I'm not sure how successful I have been, but I've tried to make it more interactive for you to reflect on it and to get back and to think about it in your own sense. Now, and I won't do this to you, I promise, but I'm asking, if you had a question paper at the end of it, not an assignment only, but you had a question paper at the end of this exam, at the end of this course, and the question paper said, comment on the features of writing. Today we have done that. So comment on the features of writing and with respect to the various types of writing that there are. How confident are you to be able to write an answer on it? There's no right or wrong answer in this. There's just an honest answer. And that is part of the learning. I'm just asking you. The question would be in the question paper, comment on uh, comment on the features of writing with respect to the various types of writing that there are, and exactly on what we have, discussed today. Not confident. Okay, not confident. My second question to you is, does this mean that you have not understood? Okay, so even though you have understood, you're not going to be confident. So you have understood, I'm assuming, and give you the benefit of doubt, but you won't be confident to write. And this is one of the key thrust factors of academic writing, is that what you're saying, the jargon. A question that I have for all the students who constantly ask me, the jargon makes it so difficult. And I'm like, what is it in that academic piece that is jargon that you don't understand? Right? So if you talk about, for instance, if I give you the word mechanics of writing, the jargon in mechanics of writing will be the word mechanics, right? But when I tell you this and when you understand it, you understand what is mechanics of writing.
Font, tenses, font size.
Yes, so the various kinds of features and types and the various kinds of elements that make up the writing as a composite. It could be font, it can be white space, it can be formatting, it could be color, it can be the vocabulary used. It is basically what the mechanics is, that is what makes up a bicycle, and the mechanics is what will make up the writing. So writing can be the words, the sentence structures, the format, the font, everything. So you will know that this is the basics of writing in that sense, the very visible structure of writing, the physical properties of writing as being pointed out. Absolutely. So you know this, but you won't feel comfortable uh, writing this. And a question is, how do we make that happen? How can we make academic writing more easy and comfortable for people? Um, it's not an easy exercise, but one of the key aspects to academic writing is that one good news is that academic writing is changing as well. Uh, Definitely in academic writing, all those referencing that you have to do, the APA style, where you have to write, if, for instance, if you had to quote this lecture, then you would have to say, uh, Ramanathan 2020 or something of that sort to talk about the lecture, uh, you know, and quote me in something or paraphrase me in something. But we know all of this. We have all the information. Uh, Autobiography was very difficult for us to write when we were in fifth standard. Uh, Narrative was very difficult for us to write when we were in second and third standard. We always were made to write stories. Letter writing was so difficult when we were in fifth, sixth standard. But academic writing always continues to be very difficult for us, no matter which standard. I think someone was typing, and I would just like to know how we can make that happen. Some parts of what you're writing is going to be coming from, academic style. I'm not saying that you have to write an entire academic paper, but how do you make it sound more erudite? So I'm going to give you one more exercise like that cabbage exercise, but now you have to make it sound in your way more academic. Okay, so this is just a sentence. Mm. So while you're trying this, I'm going to give you another sentence, but try this. Try to write this in a more academic way, if you will. Try. I'll give you 2 minutes. Has someone written something? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop now and just ask you the question where some of you are writing. All right, academic writing reflects lack of communication. The general community could never comprehend this perspective. Very good. The people who are not of education field may find it difficult to understand academic writing. This is a failure in communication. To write what is known as academic language is to fail in the area of communication. The general population not in this field would perhaps never understand this aspect. Very good. The results of the study reveals that most individuals are unable to comprehend academic text because academic language differs from spoken language. Okay. There was no study, but okay, you just manufactured. Common people fail to understand that using academic language leads to failure. Um, doesn't that change the meaning, Shreya? I think the point was that regular people will never understand this. That's a very interesting take because this could have been anything, and you're right in that. Regular people may fail to understand that academia, to write in academia or academic languages to fail in communication could also be something that regular people. Very interesting. Can become a hindrance or a barrier for common people and can affect communication. Okay. I'm going to stop. I mean, you're all welcome to, of course, continue typing and finishing off what you're typing. But I'm going to ask you and draw your attention to what I have written, which is this. Can you decode this and tell me what this means? What do you think this means?
There are a lot of biological terms.
Yeah, there are. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to type and finish off the part there. Uh, is it difficult to understand what I written? Yes. Okay. Now, I'll give you a clue. This is nonsense that I typed up based on a nursery poem. Can you guess the nursery poem? What I have typed up right now, the latest one, just read that and tell me what the nursery poem might be. Too many high vocabulary, difficult. Yeah. Okay. It's a single sentence which goes on and on and on. Yes. Yes, Ayana. It is Jack and Jill. Can you decode? Can anyone decode what has been, pushed as what in this?
Two specimens of that evolved from apes. It's Jack and Jill.
Yeah, so obviously it has also tried to, deconstruct Jack and Jill as two specimens of the species that evolved from apes, as per Charles Darwin's philosophy,
and
one of whom carries the mitochondrial DNA intact to, pass it on to uh, her offspring, is about the fact that one of them is a female, the other is not a female. And then the name, I think what was easy for you to decode? How did you manage to decode this?
because of the instrument generally used to store a liquid that freezes 32 degrees.
So 32 degrees Fahrenheit, obviously, and not 0 degrees Celsius. So yes, and I think I tried giving that away in a sense, because you know that this could have been made more complex by saying by using something that is of not solid or gaseous state, that and you can have so many other ways of that has two components of, or two parts of one molecule, and of one type of molecule, and one component, one part of another kind of molecule, rarely found in the underground terrains of Mars, and so on and so forth. You can make it much more complex than this. But the fish used to breathe, the body part that the fish used to breathe, Jill, and then you're like, Jill, okay, fine. And then you know that Jack and Jill should come to your mind. So that could be it. You didn't think the hydraulic instrument used to lift weights,
That's how
and if you are someone accustomed to, if you're accustomed to Jack, then yes. If you're not accustomed to cars, then you won't ever think of Jack, and then you won't think of anything. It could have been made easier by saying it is the fourth highest card in a game of cards, in that sense, of every house or whatever. So you get what academic writing is. It is just trying to make something that is an idea, like Jack and Jill went up the hill, and the hill was just this, right? Perambulated over a topographical protrusion. So perambulated is walked over instead of went up, and a hill and topographical protrusion. It is something that is emerging while carrying an instrument generally used to store liquid to fetch a pail of water. And pail is that freezes, since they wanted to procure for themselves this elixir, and some fancy word for what water can represent rather than what water is, because elixir is like nirvana, is a kind of, something that is the opposite, very opposite of poison, and can take you to high heavens. And they wanted to procure this. And yeah, and you can do this with anything. One way of making it fun for yourself to try and do academic writing is to try and see how you can complicate. I don't know how many of you watch Big Bang Theory. Have you watched that? Or if you have seen Friends, you know that Joey took up a thesaurus and started writing, words for the heart. But Big Bang Theory, some of you, if you're watching, more than Friends, Big Bang Theory, do you really think that people who write the dialogues of Sheldon, or if you have seen that film where Dharmender is Vahan Chalak, okay, I can't remember it, but Dharmender and Amitabh Bachchan and Sharmila Tagore were there in this movie, and he was speaking the Shuddh Hindi. Do you really think any writer is sitting down and writing the Shuddh Hindi or this brilliant English? Like it comes to them, is it? Yeah. Not even the fact that it is researchers speaking to experts. Of course, I'm not denying that it is, but a lot of it actually also comes from, you get accustomed to reading in a certain way if you read a lot of it. So one of the reasons why we are able to speak the Mumbaiya Hindi, or I am, it took me years to understand. When I first came from Delhi to Bombay, I was appalled that people could say tu to another person because it was like an expletive in where I came from, saying tu to even someone who's junior to you. I mean, we learned it, we had it, but you could only say aap. So even when you're talking to a small child, you would say aapka naam kya hai? And then you came down to Bombay and they were like tu, tera, and you're like, oh God, how rude. Where are these people coming from? But as you listen, as you get accustomed, you sort of attune yourself to that kind of climate and you learn how to speak, to the extent that when I go back to Delhi, people tell me that I'm quite rude. So they took references, and yeah, Chupke Chupke is the name of the film. Thank you. Yes, they might use some help, they use references, they have used other people and resources, but to some extent, they play these kinds of games. The very game that I played with you is a kind of game that you play. This is a game. You can make academic writing a game. You take up something that is common sense, you find a way of doing this in representing it in other ways, and you can make it a creative exercise of learning how to talk in that language. Academic writing is as much a language as any of your other dialects. It speaks a particular kind of dialect. It wants you to be more concrete, less abstract, and yet in a way much more difficult to get to and understand, because you want to be very specific about it. So if I'm trying to say, let me take up this word since we have it. What is the difference between a woman and a female? Is there a difference?
Yes.
What is
I
the difference?
Female could be for any species, while when you are talking about a woman, you're referring to a human.
Right. So female is more, and this is a fact, female is more DNA centric and woman is more culture centric. It is something that, you know, the humankind understands, and it has certain connotations of what womanliness means. And so certain people have womanly traits whether they are women or not, and some people have manly traits whether they are men or not. And those are concepts that we talk about in terms of culture. And one of in science, in academia, we can't be talking about it without defining it and without refining and saying, oh, you know, when I say woman, I mean these are the kinds of traits that I'm talking about. When I say homeland, these are the kinds of traits I'm talking about. When I say a child, this is what I'm categorizing as a child. So you define everything in academic language in order to ensure that no one can take the other meaning, because we're very conscious that there are other meanings. In creative writing, on the other hand, which is the other extreme, you're like, मैंने जो लिखा है लिख दिया. Now you figure out whatever you want to do with it, you know. And so these are the kinds of things that you will have to grapple with. One is being very, 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 very specific. The other allows you to be abstract. So this entire aspect that you talked about, where creative writing enables you to be abstract, academic writing pins you down to say, okay, you said a hill. Now tell me how big, how wide, how soon, you know, what is it? So you are now an architect, still an artist, but an architect who has to draw to scale on a graph paper, as opposed to that hill where you were like Picasso, just taking a brush stroke and drawing. So suddenly you have to be a lot more conscious. And of course, being conscious makes the exercise a lot more difficult and irritating and slows you down. And I think most of us are very, very tired of the slowing down of the pace. So one way of improving your academic writing is to take these kinds of nursery rhymes, or take these kinds of ordinary average sentences and try and use more complex, more nuanced words and irritate people around you. So basically, for the next few days, if you can, like for the next few months, if you try and be like Sheldon, you end up speaking in that kind of language. I don't know how many of you really watch. I mean, some of you would at least be, I hope most of you would at least be aware of Sheldon Speak, as we call it in media. And the Sheldon Speak is basically speaking in a language that other people are like, okay, thank you for saying this. Now, what did you mean? And that is the way that you can develop your vocabulary and make academic writing seem easy for yourselves. I'll wait for Rachel to type. You were typing something. Go ahead or speak. Yeah, sorry, Rebecca. I am very sorry. I don't know why I got the Rachel connection. Thanks, Rebecca. Sorry. Yes.
It's okay. And I wasn't typing.
It shows maybe because all your thing was there. Okay. So, yeah. Thank you, Ayana and Ashna, for pointing out it was Rebecca. I will just lobby the thing saying that, I completely forgot. Okay, so when you are trying to do this in terms of academic writing, you will have to try and structure something in other ways through games like these. It's not so difficult to write. One element of academic writing is that it is long sentences, but academic writing is also changing its format. Academic writing enables you to use nowadays your first person account. One of the very irritating things of academic writing was always referring to yourself. The researcher found this. I found this. We found this. No, you would have to say the research team found this. It was discovered. We discovered, could have been there, but they don't say that. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so they don't say that. And those are important elements to keep in mind of academic writing, that now they are changing the format, and the current Purdue style is, the current APA style and all these other styles that you use are enabling you to utilize the first person account, and you can write short sentences, you can write abstract. The only thing that academic writing expects you to do is to be more specific. So you have to be more specific. Now, I'll come to the most important part of our exercise, which is the assignment. What is that the last assignment of yours is going to be? And it's going to just reflect the, where am I? Sorry, I should share the screen. 1 second, I'll share the screen. Yeah. So the last part of it is exactly taken from your syllabus. They have all of these kinds, which is writing picture description, expansion of ideas, essays, stories, converting written to graphical representation. We can't finish doing all of this within a short period of time. So I'm going to take up one exercise. So one of it is, you have these courseworks. Can you read? Sorry, can I do this? Yeah. Can you read this? Sorry, went back. 1 second. No, I'll come back to that page. Can you read this now? Yeah. So this last part of your coursework of practical field engagement, is what one of this is what you will have to do. I am going to take out the peer editing. That is not going to be there. Uh, the rest will be. Anyone, either preparing a feedback form and looking at the differences in terms of parents and teachers uh, for different audiences. So you can decide what kind of feedback you want to have. The questions in both of them must be a minimum of 10 each. Okay. Another is a short journal of a graphical representation of newspaper articles on school education. Okay, so the options in 2.4, if you really look at 2.4, where basically that you have a children with disabilities. So you must have a graphical representation of the newspaper articles. What does that graphical representation mean? Is that you would, do it in a graph format, or you can use these elements of things that I will actually discuss in the next class. I'm not going to do it in this class by itself, but I will discuss it in the next class. So that is one other option. You have all these and you have to do any one. Okay. And you obviously can't visit a bookstore for young children, but you can still make a list of useful material for developing early literacy skills in children based on some of the activities that we have spoken of right now. And instead of visiting a bookstore, you could be looking it up in terms of online resources. Okay. I've given you certain activities in today's class, but you could also be looking at it. I'm not going to ask you in this writing assignment, please note, I'm not asking you to write anything very academic. I'm not asking you to write anything very creative. We are only trying to find out two things. One is, of course, if you are doing any writing, then it will be in the feedback form. If you're doing any newspaper articles, you will have to, okay, how many newspaper articles? There will have to be a minimum of, again, 10 newspaper articles that you are identifying, and then you're making them a graphical representation. And if you're looking at a list of useful materials, there has to be at least about 15 materials that is an annotated kind of bibliography that you would be using. So any one of these three is going to be your final assignment. Does that make sense to you? Do you need more? I'll give you certain examples of a graphical representation a bit later, just now in another 10 minutes. But can you just look at this and tell me if there are any problems with these three?
So, ma'am, for the third one, so instead of visiting the bookstore, what did you tell we have to do?
Look up online.
Okay, ma'am.
You can look up online, or you can already have resources, right? But you have to identify about 10 to 15 kinds of materials that would be useful for developing early literacy skills. I've already given you a few now. I've also given you a couple of, I will also put up a couple of links later, but that is because you can't visit a bookstore right now, it's locked down.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what is the kind of exercise books? What are the kinds of puzzles? What is the online activities that we could do to improve literacy skills? And please understand, literacy is very different from reading, right? What we have been doing in this class is not just reading. We have been trying to think. All of you have collectively come up and tried to reflect on questions and tried to find how these answers work. So I'm not saying that it has to be all metaphorical language or anything. So these are the three ones. I'm not going to have that first one of peer editing a reflective task, because that's a long process and I think you're all very busy. So these three. Of these three, you have to do any one.
Ma'am,
it's not even like it's a course. Yeah. Yes.
Ma'am, can you please
Questions?
explain the first one again, the feedback form?
Sure. So I'm going to give you examples for this. Can you, 1 minute, 1 minute. Let me just do one thing. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to come here and share this on your screen. Yeah. I will explain the each one. 1 second. Class photos. What did I do? So you will have to do, I should have pushed it back down anyway. Okay, take care. I think you can get it. So this is what you will have as an assignment. So what does it mean? What does the first assignment mean? Let's think about it. What is it that you would want to do for feedback form for parents and teachers, focusing on the different, what is it that you would want to find out from teachers and parents? Okay, so maybe my question is impact of lockdown, right? Maybe that is my question. I'm giving you one suggestion, right? And maybe I want to find out what do parents think about lockdown? How will I ask these questions? A very simple thing will be a difference between your student versus your child. Will I use the word child uh, in a survey for teachers? Absolutely. So that's a very crucial difference. One of the things that you were talking about, and I gave it to you here, where you were saying that common people will not understand academic writing, there may be certain kinds of words used. For instance, any teacher will know corporal punishment, right? As a word. Do you expect parents to know this? And so the moment you're asking those questions, there may be certain questions that are similar, okay, in nature for teachers and for parents. That may be the same, the wording may be almost the same. But in other words, in other questions, you may have to use substitute words. You may have to explain more. You may have to be a bit more careful. For instance, you can ask a teacher, are your students, uh, you know, uh, are your students naughty and disinterested in learning? Would you ask parents the same question? Or is there any other way that you can frame this question for the parent? So you may say, does your child sometimes exhibit naughty behavior or something like that? I am not, it is not an easy task to do this, but it is a very because it is difficult, I have said 10 questions each, right? I have only asked for that much. Is your child eager to learn something? Is your child always eager to learn something? Yeah, something of that sort, much more positive. Whereas for teachers, you could ask certain kinds of negatively worded questions. You may not want to negatively word any kind of suggestive words which are negative about children to parents. Questionnaire. Does this help answer your question to some extent? I don't want to give away the answer. I just want to give you one or two examples. You have to struggle with this if you are attempting it. And I'm ready to give you feedback. That I can do. Okay? All right. Yeah. So the second one, which was the text on, I'll give you examples for each of it. So if you're saying graphical representation of newspapers, I'll give you one example, and I'll also give you sites where you can get this, okay? So if you have a graphical representation of newspapers, I don't know whether you do these in terms of data visualizations, but something very simple can be a word cloud like this. Can you see? So it has words where you are creating word cloud. And you could create a word cloud of all the important words on children learning with disabilities. The focus is on that 2.4, children learning with disabilities, or children with learning disabilities. Actually, sorry, I was wrong in phrasing it. Children with learning disabilities. What are the kinds of words that come up? So the word cloud is one graphical representation. Can you give me any other example of a graphical representation?
An infographic?
Absolutely. So there could be graphs that could be used. Why did I use this? I don't know. So you could have a code. You can code something and you can have it. Google Form does this for you all the time. I'm sorry. Yeah, so you can have this kind of a graph. Yeah,
ma'am, I
sorry.
have a question. So
Yeah.
the final thing that we need to submit is only the graph, or do we
No, also
submit
the
the write-up
newspaper
as well?
clippings. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. You have to submit the write-up. Yeah, you
so that
have to
would be the
submit
newspaper
the
articles, not
The
not.
newspaper articles. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again,
But
can be
we
done
would.
very easily.
Okay.
Yes, the feedback form is on the same topic. It is the same topic, but your audience is different. See, please look at the question. The question is very simple in the classroom. I'm just going to the classroom and saying this. This is already there and as a part of your coursework. The question is extremely simple. It says prepare a feedback form for parents and for teachers. But what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to focus on the differences in the two forms because of the difference in intent and audience. Right? Because parents will not be asked in the same way. I have a student of mine currently looking at the street children, and she's focusing, I mean, her research got stopped. She's looking at street children and their education level. Now, she was asking teachers about, are the children very demotivated because of financial conditions? How many of your children are really poor, etc.? Now, can I go to a parent and say, are you poor? Can you afford for your child to come to school? I can't ask the parent that. It is so insensitive. I am not saying that researchers have not done this. There is one research that, has actually asked Black people. This was the options that they had for this question, okay? Very good, good, bad, very bad. These were the four options that is there in a Princeton study on Black community in ghettos in 1990s. This was the options. The question is, how do you feel about being poor in America? Forget the no average. Forget the fact that they had a 4-point scale. They asked this question, asking people, how do you feel about being poor in America? And you're like, what are you talking about? Why would you even have this option? Exactly. And that's the point of the exercise, that you can't have such stupid questions. And anyone is capable of stupidity at any point in time. Okay. So it is from that angle. Some of the things that I was talking about as bias in the earlier reading, that is another thing that comes in. Because if I say, I'll give you another question of a form. Have you heard of the following teas? Because it's almost tea time. Okay. So have you heard of the following teas? Lipton, Green Taj. Okay, so which of the following teas have you heard of? And you have these three options. How many people will mark all the three? Yeah, exactly. But it is not there, no? There is no Green Taj. And there is no Lipton. There is Lipton. But I will read the survey and say, Abhi to suna na, essay mein. So you bias the reader into tick marking wrong answers. Which will be, how can this question be framed better? Right, exactly. You know this, right? I mean, all of us are brilliant Indian students. We know how to cheat our way through exams and through form surveys. So how would you frame the same question? What does this question make? Have you heard of the following teas? Makes me feel that I should know. The way that this is framed makes me feel कि मुझे दुनिया के बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं है. I should know of these. So I will mark yes because I am now, मेरे इज्जत का सवाल है. You know, it is an ego issue. The way you can reword this very easily is, which of the following teas are not even have you heard of or have you used? No, again, used may fir I look at it and say, oh, Taj is supposed to be something high status and maybe I should use that. You know, you change and tweak it around. Don't ever make it an ego question. Not do you prefer. Which of the following teas are available in your vicinity or in your area? Something like that. Which of the following teas have been advertised recently? Not have you seen, but have been advertised. Yes, or are commonly used. That is also fine. But you, जैसे ही you आ गया, it is ego. And that is bias. And so the feedback form can bias you. And you understand, it's a very simple way of twisting the question. And the way I do it is I get a more reliable score. So you have done these kinds of research method questions, I'm sure already. I don't have to teach you all of this. But these are the kinds of, ways that you can negotiate your way through not making it seem biased and not making them want to say कि झूठ बोल देते हैं or and I'm not even telling a lie, no, when you ask me which of the following teas have you heard of and I will say Lipton, Green. अभी तो सुना, मैं बोल रही थी तब सुना, I did hear of it. So you can formulate it in that way. So that is what the first question is asking you to do. The graphical representation, as I said, can be a bar chart, a table, So you are supposed to be able to pick out words. So basically it is asking you to do a reflective reading exercise and represent it in another form. And there are, I will, in the next class, maybe go over some of these exercises again, and we will do a doubt solving session. I am kind of done with what we have. Of course, we have not done as much of detailing as I would like. I mean, in the class, I would have made you write and write and write, but it's okay. And we have a very short semester, and I think that is fine. But I will take you through certain tools which are available online. And the third one is we can go and visit certain other sites, and I will share certain sites with you. And you look them up and identify which of these are good or bad to use. Okay, so the next class will be a discussion on the doubts you have. I will take you through certain materials that are available online for better reading, better writing. Purdue OWL is definitely there for better academic writing, exercises that can be done, materials that are available that you can use in your teaching, all of that. Okay? Any doubts for today? Because this is your third and final assignment.
Ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a doubt for the third one. That's the reference, like the now the assignment which you gave, the third one. We have to literacy skills. We have to find material. So there we have to put examples, or we have to put the description of it.
So this will be like an annotated bibliography where you are saying ये इसके साथ आप ये कर सकते हैं. Let me give you. So what you have to be able to do is, let me give you a site. I'll just take you to one place. Google Draw. Okay, say we go to this site and I play this game, and you have to draw an ocean. Yeah. So if I draw this, if I'm using this as a tool, can you see my screen?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So if I draw this screen and I am so yeah. So if I have something like this, so if I do something like this and I draw and I'm doing this, can you tell me what is the use of this tool for literacy? What is the use of this?
So your drawing, so you can like afterwards while writing, it will help.
It will help in writing. I think someone else messaged something. I'm going to go and check there. Yeah. It will help for picture word association. It will help with vocabulary. It is a fun way to learn words. It is definitely also going to hopefully help you with your drawing skills. It is early literacy in a way, but it is also asking you to, in the doing of it, you're learning. So you're constructing something and you're learning, right? Now, so if I take this tool, and by the way, now this tool is cancelled. You guys cannot use this tool now that I've given this tool to you in your list. But if I take this tool and I say this is an early literacy tool, there are many such tools available, huh? Don't worry. So if I take this tool of Google Draw and I say you can use it, that is a list, right? Now I say, what can I do with Google Draw and why will it be useful? 2 to 3 lines on that. That's it. Does this help answer your question? Like what you have written here, picture word association helps in constructing vocabulary, makes the child draw the word that is given to the child, and as a computer tries to guess. So improves drawing skills, improves vocabulary because you have to be able to comprehend, and has a picture word association. That's your answer for one of the reading materials list. That's as short and simple as that. Helps?
So, ma'am, does it have to be ICT based, or it cannot? It like technology based, or is it okay if it is not technology based? And
No, no, it doesn't have to be technology based. No one says it is technology based. In fact, they have said visit a bookstore, right? So it is not technology based. It is only I said visit sites. I just gave you something that I thought you would not visit. So I gave that to you. You can choose anything. Yes, of course, you can choose books. You can choose exercises. You can choose jigsaw. You can, I mean, I'm giving away the game, but you can choose so many things. You
okay, and
can
then
choose.
how it will help in literacy? We have to tell. So,
Yes, yes, 2 to 3 lines per material. Yes, and it has to be 15, around 15 materials. Exercises. Say, what is it that they're saying? It is exercises and uh, you know, the point is being made is that it is an exercise book, reading material available in exercise book, puzzles, etc., and make a list of the useful material for developing literacy skills. That's it. So it could be
okay,
even your school textbooks you could be looking at and seeing which of these help in literacy. Okay?
okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Got
And
it.
you guys don't have to do all the three. Yeah? You can do any, I mean, you're welcome to do all the three, but you don't have to. You can do any one. Life is made simpler because your semester is cut short. Otherwise, I would have made you do all the three. Actually, I would have made you all do the first one. But okay. You don't have time. Okay? Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't upload this yesterday's. Okay, today I'll upload both our meetings. Sorry, my fault. Okay, so I'll definitely keep this in. So there are three. So now this is your final assignment, and you'll be done with it. So you have a lot of material collection to do. Okay, all right. I'll see you on Thursday. I don't see you tomorrow. Okay, chalo.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Bye bye. Actually. Thank you.